Yo, what's good everyone? So I know I've been raging a lot lately because Battlegrounds is in absolute shambles. The nodes, the AI has just been awful lately. But we're going to be taking a break from raging in this video and we're going to be talking about what I think the best champion available as a 7-star is in each and every single class. So the way this video is going to be structured is there's going to be 3 honorable mentions, then I'll reveal who I think the best champion available as a 7-star is in that class, and we're going to be starting off with the science class. Now there's so many great science champions, of course, so this was by far the hardest class to decide between. Silk, she's really good, has some insane damage, really strong utility with her slow, but she's just not as versatile as some of the other science champions, so I think they outclass her. Cap IW is really strong, but he needs max sig for his true utility, but even without that he has some really decent damage and perfect block. But for the honorable mentions, first one is Photon, of course one of the best defenders in game, and she's a really solid attacker, just not the absolute fastest, so that's what's holding her back from number one. Hulk, decent defender, really strong attacker, has that incredible stun lock, and if you go for his SB3 rotation, some of the best damage in the game. And then Spider-Ham, he doesn't have as much utility as the other champions, but he has taunt and insane damage and special attack mitigation. He's just a beast for Battlegrounds on offense and defense, and I think he's well deserving of a honorable mention. But the champion that I think is best in the science class as a 7-star is Titania. Her damage is insane. Anything is going to die with a Titania SB3, and she's really chunky. She has one of the biggest health pools in game. Combine that with inequity from all her debuffs, she's really tanky, and her utility is insane with being able to go indestructible. You can tank SB3s with that. The Haymaker lets you get 3 easy intercepts, easy openings, and if you know the rotation, you can just cycle back-to-back SB3s and tank your opponent's SB3s with the Haymaker. I'll put a link to that in the description. Ghost made a video on that. But yeah, Titania, I definitely think is the best 7-star science champion. For the skill class, now there's a few great champions in here. Mantis, I know a lot of people love, but she's really not as versatile. The main reason people use her nowadays is just for Photon. Killmonger, pretty good attacker, really decent defender, but yeah, just not good enough to mention. Shang-Chi, a beast for story mode content, pretty good for war, but he's not got that much use in Battlegrounds, so he can't make the list. Bullseye, of course, he's one of the best defenders, but this list is mostly based on attack. If you're good on defense as well, it helps, but this is mainly a attacker focused list. So for the honorable mentions, we got Massacre. He just has instant access to really high damage output, and he has really strong ability accuracy reduction off his SB1, incinerates, bleeds as well, plenty of damage, pretty good utility. Black Cat, really strong ability accuracy reduction, which is one of the strongest abilities in game, and she has really good damage, really good bleeds as well. Mole Man, really good damage, decent defender. He's really solid for Battlegrounds, and yeah, he's got a ton of utility, like being shock immune, being able to shrug debuffs. But the best skill champion by far, in my opinion, is Crossbones, and it's not even close. This guy is packed full of utility and damage. Short fights, long fights, doesn't matter, Crossbones nukes it. He has one of the strongest abilities in game with his defensive ability accuracy reduction, which I won't talk about too much because I've made plenty of videos on Crossbones already. But yeah, that defensive ability accuracy reduction, one of the strongest abilities in game, can purify debuffs, has access to incinerates, just a really OP character as long as you can master playing him. For the mutant class, there's not as many OP options, but there's a lot of good options. White Magneto is a very strong champion, can pretty much do almost everything Red Magneto can, but he's great against non-metal champions as well. Sunspot has insane damage. Bishop, great dual use champion for Battlegrounds, good on offense, defense, just doesn't have the most utility. OG Storm, insane damage. Omega Red is really good, but of course he's really hard to get, and even harder to get to max sig. But Yeah, Omega Red and Sunspot were definitely close to making the honorable mentions, but our first one is Nightcrawler. I just think his unique ability to be able to dex almost any special attack, anything in game, really pushes him to being one of the best mutants. On top of that, really insane damage, easy access to prowess. Mr. Sinister, great defender, and the only thing that holds Mr. Sinister back is inequity, really reduces his damage in Battlegrounds, but as a 7-star rank 3, that's going to help his damage a lot. And then there's Domino. Of course, she was almost the champion that I picked to be number 1. She will forever be one of the best defenders in game. But on attack, she's RNG. As a 7-star, it's less RNG because you are really likely to crit with a 7-star Domino. But she's still RNG. So the champion that I'm saying is the best in the mutant class is Onslaught. No shock there. Of course, he's one of the best defenders in game. And he's just packed full of utility. He's got so many immunities. Well, not immunities, so many resistances. Like, he's 100% resistant to bleed, incinerate, shock, so he takes no damage off them. If the opponent purifies one of his stuns, he turns it passive. He has insane damage for long fights, pretty good damage for short fights. He's immune to reverse controls. Yeah, he's just packed full of utility. He's good for long content, short content, and Onslaught was really made to be the best mutant champion, and I think they succeeded with that. So for the tech class now, I know a lot of people would say Warlock, but Warlock is normally not too good in Battlegrounds because he's normally not good on defense, normally gets nuked, and he's normally just too slow on attack. Apart from this matter, of course, he's great in crit me, but when this season is over, you'll all see he's far from the fastest champion. Howard the Duck can do some insane things. Red Skull is a pretty good dual use champion, but the metas have not been helping him out, so he's been pretty mid for me, so I'm not going to put him top 3. Penny Parker can be a pretty annoying defender, and she's solid on attack. But the honourable mentions, we're starting off with Punisher, and he has some of the best power control in game, matched with some crazy damage. Yeah, he's just a really solid champion, really good for Battlegrounds. Shuri, never been a fan of Shuri, but she's one of the best options for Necro, and she is good in Battlegrounds despite being not the fastest champion because she counters Domino, counters Atuma, she counters a few tricky defenders. Then there's Shocker, who is one of the best Battlegrounds nukes, really versatile because like Starkey, he relies on no buffs or debuffs. And yeah, he's a solid defender as well. If he's at max sig, he's even faster. But the champion that I think is the best in the tech class, as a 7-star at least, is Starkey. And it's not even close in my opinion. This guy is the king of Battlegrounds. He is the best Battlegrounds attacker in game. He works almost every single meta. He's one of the fastest champions and he's one of the safest champions thanks to his stun lock off the SB1, his power drain off his heavy attack. He was made for Battlegrounds. He was made to be the best Battlegrounds attacker, even though I know he came out way before Battlegrounds was released, but that doesn't matter. He's the perfect Battlegrounds champion, and I don't see another tech champion overthrowing Starkey anytime soon. He is just so versatile with some of the craziest damage in game. Now Mystic, I'm sure you all know who the best champion in this class is, but we'll act dumb for a second. Just play along. We all know who the best champion is. But yeah, of course, there's a few great champions in the Mystic class. Longshot, he does pretty much everything you need a Mystic champion to do. He will wipe out any buffs on your opponent, stop them from gaining any new ones, and he punishes your opponent for gaining said buffs, but just not quite good enough to make the honourable mentions. Kushala was really close to making it. Really good immunities, really good damage. But our first honourable mention is Chavez. She's really versatile, doesn't rely on any buffs or debuffs, has some insane damage and some of the best power reversal in the game. Of course, Chavez is going to be here, great champion for Battlegrounds and pretty much everywhere in game. Hood, if you can get this guy duped, has some of the best power control in the game, and he doesn't rely on any debuffs. His invisibility is a buff, but for the most part he doesn't rely on any buffs, and he can get easy openings with his invisibility. Some of the strongest buff control in the game, really good damage. And of course Sasquatch, he's one of the best Battlegrounds defenders in game just because he's so tanky, biggest health pool in game, and has damage mitigation. And he's a really good attacker. If his SB2 crits, some of the best and fastest damage in game. And yeah, he's just really tanky, has some nice utility with the cold snap resistance as well. But of course, the best Mystic champion available as a 7-star is Juggernaut, and it's not even close. I don't know how this guy was allowed to be released as a 7-star. They said Zemo is too strong to be a 7-star, but Juggernaut isn't apparently. Okay, buddy. But yeah, man, obviously it's going to be Juggernaut. Then for the last class now, the obvious pick here is Serpent, because of course he's the best defender in game, all that, yeah. But guess what? I hate Serpent. He doesn't exist in my world. If I ban Serpent every time I see him, and if I don't rank up Serpent, does he really exist? I don't think so. So you know what? No. We're just going to pretend like Serpent doesn't exist, and we're going to talk about champions that are actually well balanced. So first off, Hyperion, great champion, just not a good champion for Battlegrounds because of the RNG factor, so couldn't include him. Nova, as our first honourable mention, a lot of you would expect me to put him at number 1, but despite him being the best cosmic for Battlegrounds, outside of Battlegrounds, he doesn't have as much use. Of course, Adam Warlock, insane damage, insane Battlegrounds nuke, can be a decent defender, doesn't have that much utility. But Venom, really good Battlegrounds attacker, access to buffs, debuffs, bleeds, ton of utility, and really solid damage as long as you have the Venom Relic awakened. But in my opinion, the best cosmic available as a 7-star is actually Odin, and I'll tell you why. He's great for Battlegrounds. He counters some tricky champions like Bullseye and a lot of the tricky tech defenders. He's good for long form content. This guy can help you explore Necro. He's really good for long form content because his SB2 scales with the amount of health the opponent has, and you can hit like 400k SB2s. Yeah, he's just good for short fights, good for long fights, has really good utility with his True Strike, ton of buffs. He's good literally everywhere in game. So yeah, I think at the moment he's the best cosmic 7-star. But that's going to be the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, leave a subscribe, and remember, this was all just my personal opinion, so don't get offended in the comments.